Good morning, beloveds. Welcome to Awakening Ways Spiritual Community. I'm Dr. Frank Zamalan, Dr. Terry Zamalan, and I want to welcome you. If this is your first time or your 1000th time, we love you and we're so glad you're here. You know, Awakening Ways is a New Thought spiritual community in the lineage of Dr. Ernest Holmes. We're a community that believes that there's a golden thread of truth and love that winds its way through all great spiritual traditions, whatever those spiritual traditions might be. And that thread lies in the mystical strand of that religion, that mystical strand that says we can connect to God directly, for we are of God. We are part of God. We are God's creation out of God's own thought. And that thought is still part of God's mind, as we are. And so when we awaken to that truth, when we awaken to that knowledge that we are part of that, then our lives become this abundant, wonderful place where we learn to appreciate all things. Here at Awakening Ways, we try to do that ordinarily in ordinary days. And I have to stop saying that, I guess, because there's going to be a new ordinary that's not going to look like the old one. We have Sunday gatherings like this with wonderful music and uplifting talks. We have classes, meditations, workshops, and of course we have our wonderful soul support team that's available to do prayer and also spiritual counseling. So we're all here by divine appointment. We joined this today because Spirit has called us to this place to hear something we need to hear. Wherever it is that you came from, wherever it is that you go when you turn us off today, for right now, for this sacred moment, welcome home. We've been waiting for you. Let's begin, as we always do, with a little silence and an invocation. Closing our eyes, focusing on our breath, moving into the stillness within us. I know that there is one spirit, one divine entity in the universe. That one I call the God of my understanding. It is creator of all. It is the love that is expressed through the entire universe. It is the life expression of wonderful and perfect health that is always available. It is infinite wisdom unfolding in divine right action in all things. And it is all things. I know that as it's all things, it is me, it is in me, it is me. For I am God having a frank experience. And I know that that is true for every person, every sentient being on the planet and every other planet. That we truly are one with the Creator, one with God, one with that infinite love, that limitless wisdom, and we walk that divine unfolding right action in all ways. I know and I declare for this day that Dr. Terry, as she speaks from that place of wisdom and love, bringing us the words of spirit, clearly and purely through her. I know that as Jimmy and the other musicians play today and sing for us, that they raise us into that higher vibration through those divine harmonies. And I know that all of us on this call are raised in our consciousness and are blessed by what we hear here today. And for that, I am so grateful. So grateful. I've spoken my word of love. That love has impelled the law of the universe. All things are done. And so it is. Amen.
I bless this place where now I stand. I bless this place where now I am, and declare that my kingdom, my queendom of heaven is right here where I am, here and now. As the rich, abundant and plentiful rush of divine goodness flows freely, effortlessly in my life, now and always. Isn't it wonderful? Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Namaste. The light and love of the divine in me honors and greets the light and love of the divine in each and every one of you here this morning. Thank you for being here. It's a beautiful day. Let me get myself set up here. I'm having some technical difficulties this morning, but there we go. Okay, I'm here. I'm fully present. I'm fully present. So I wanted to start off by talking about a woman, an author that I read. Her name is Joyce Rupp, and she is a Christian writer, but she's actually from the Catholic tradition. But I find that the way that she writes just speaks to my heart, and so I have several of her books, and I enjoy reading them. And I noticed that she had a new book out, and so I took a look at the introduction to the book, and I was reading what she'd written there, and she shared the story about an experience she had on retreat. And so she went on retreat, and the retreat was actually in San Diego, and apparently the retreat facility itself was right by the ocean. So every day Joyce would go down to the beach, and she would sit in this same spot every day on a rock, and from this spot she could look out at the water, and within her vision, while she looked out on the water, there was a small sailboat. And she noticed that every day when she went down to the beach, no matter what the weather was like, no matter what the sea looked like, that little sailboat was always in its place. And so, you know, it might get tossed around a little bit, it might move around a little bit, but it was anchored in place. And she took this experience of hers as a metaphor for her own life. And what she took into herself was the realization that, just like this little boat, there is a place within her, the divine presence within her is deeply and fully anchored within her, and that she might get tossed around a bit with the experiences of life. She might, things happen, but she always knew that there was this anchor that kept her steady and strong and sure in the love and grace of God, right where she was, unshakable, unmovable. I so appreciated her story and this image that she provided because, quite honestly, post-election, what else? Holidays, COVID, you name it. These times are not easy, and I feel myself being tossed around a bit. Maybe you feel that way too. And so I appreciate this image that Joyce provided because it allows me, and maybe it allows you as well, to remember that right where I am, right here within me, is the presence of the divine, and it is anchored in me. And if I start to drift, if I start moving and start drifting away from that truth that I know is within me, then I can recall this image that Joyce provided so beautifully. It's kind of like, I think of a plumb line, how it always just hangs so perfectly, this perfect straight line. A plumb line with an anchor attached to it allows me to keep myself centered, no matter what's going on the outside. So our seed of awakening for this month is appreciation. And that's a beautiful story to appreciate and a beautiful image to hold in mind in these times that are sometimes kind of crazy, right? I think that if I could, I used to title all my talks, and they had really interesting, elaborate titles. And now I just name them whatever the seed of awakening is. But if I could title this talk, I think I would call it Appreciation Soup. Because this morning, like soup, how all the things are kind of blended together. This morning, I kind of want to take this idea of appreciation, which has various ingredients or various meanings attached to it, and just kind of stir it up and mix it up and talk about it in that way this morning. So one meaning, this is week 3, and we've talked about appreciation 2 weeks already. And one meaning of appreciation that we talked about was probably the most familiar one. And that's the one that talks about appreciation kind of like as meaning the same thing as gratitude, right? So you might say it's a feeling of gratefulness, gratitude, and you say, I'm so grateful. Thank you so very much. I appreciate you, and I appreciate everything that you've done. Another meaning for appreciation is what Frank talked about last week, which is the idea that appreciation is an increase in value. Out in the world, we say, my car appreciated, or my house appreciated in value over the years. Spiritually, a way we could say that is that my spiritual practices have appreciated in importance in my life throughout the years. So in other words, my spiritual practices have increased in value. They've become even more important to me as the years have gone by. They've appreciated in that way. And yet another meaning is one that we haven't talked about, and that definition is to be fully conscious or aware of, to understand. So an example of that might be, I now fully appreciate the struggles that you have experienced. I fully appreciate that. I understand and I appreciate that. So this last meaning invites us to literally walk in the shoes of another person, right? When you say, I fully appreciate what you've experienced, that is diving into the waters of understanding, diving into the waters of appreciation, diving into the waters of gratitude and compassion. Compassion, understanding, and appreciation are all intertwined. They go together. They're kind of just this wonderful blending, like I was talking about this soup. They just they complement one another. You know, when we're really able to understand someone or a situation in our minds and in our hearts, and we can begin to appreciate what they're going through, then we can begin to connect to the feelings that they are experiencing as well. So when we appreciate and we understand another person's experience, isn't that the definition of compassion? I understand what you're feeling and I appreciate what you're feeling. You know, how often have you heard a story that someone has shared, and though the story really didn't exactly fully reflect your experience, there was something in that story that opened you to an experience that you had in the past that was very similar. And so you were, in effect, experiencing the same thing that that person was experiencing, even though the situations may have been a little bit different. And so you come to say, oh, yeah, wow, I really hear what you're saying. I see what you mean. You know, I get it. I get it. When I say I get it, that means I'm in it. I have compassion for you. I've been there. I know what you're talking about. These experiences and these reactions or feelings that we're having, this is an example of compassion. These are examples of appreciation as understanding. I appreciate this and I understand it. This is how we connect with one another. And here's the thing, because of you know what's happening in the world, because of the worldwide health situation, we're living in isolation. I mean, look around this morning. Here we all are. Well, we're together, but we're not, right? We're not physically together. We are here, and thank goodness for that. But really, we're in our own homes, aren't we? And that's a form of isolation. We may connect with family and friends. I know that we do that, but usually the connection, if it's not just immediate family, usually the connections are, you know, either by phone, by the internet, by Zoom. Maybe we run into some people at the grocery store. I love it when that happens. Maybe we go to the restaurants, to the, you know, takeout window, and we chat with the person, you know, behind the counter there. I mean, our interactions are limited. Our opportunities to just kind of chat with one another, or even to witness human interaction, I mean, just basic things, is limited. And, you know, this is a warning. Because of this, if we are not careful, if we don't watch what we're feeling, if we don't watch our hearts and pay attention to how we are responding to things, our appreciation and our ability to be compassionate could begin to diminish. I'm worried about this just because of the nature of how things are. And these times are crucial. We cannot afford to shut down our emotions. We cannot afford to shut down emotions. We cannot afford to lose our ability to understand and appreciate someone else's suffering or someone else's joy and celebration. We cannot afford to lose this, because here's the thing. A world that is without compassion, a world that is without appreciation, is a mean world. It is an uncaring world. Is this the world we want to live in? If what I just shared made you feel a little bit uncomfortable there, then good for me, because I've done my job. It is important that we pay attention. You know, we can get lost in our own little worlds, in our own little kingdoms and queendoms of our homes. We can't afford to do that. And so there of course is a solution to this. And the solution is finding things that increase our ability to understand, to appreciate, and to have compassion. To find those things and then to practice using those things, appreciating those things, finding more of them. It's up to us to do this. And when we do, we maintain our sense of appreciation, understanding, and compassion. But we must now not just rely, let's not rely on the media, because that can get us all sideways unless we carefully select what it is that we watch. So we have to know that those things, I was going to say seek, but we're not seeking, are we? We're finding. We just have to look out and find things that can give us those experiences that we want. Frank and I have these matching t-shirts. And these matching t-shirts have a picture of Buddha's head right on the front. And then the words on the t-shirt say, "Inquire within." We do get some looks when we wear these t-shirts, but you know what we mean, inquire within. And so the solution to the situation of isolation and making sure that we don't lose our compassion is to begin by inquiring within. And so we're going to do that this morning, inquiring within. And I'm going to just ask you a few questions, okay? So the first question is this: what helps you appreciate the journeys of others? And when I say journeys, I mean the experiences of others, the life of others. What is it that helps you appreciate the journeys of other people? Well, how would you answer that question? The way I answered this question was hearing about other people's, maybe their hardships or their tough experiences or what they've gone through. I really appreciate hearing these because it shifts me away from myself and how I, in whatever trivial, menial kind of thing that I have blown up in my life about me. It allows me to look to the other, to recognize that, oh yeah, that's right, there are other people besides just me. And it moves me away from my self-centeredness, really. And so I value that. I appreciate hearing these stories. whether they're stories of, of trauma or they're stories of joy and celebration, they lift me out of myself. And I am so grateful for that. And I appreciate that so much. And here's the truth, if you are feeling, you're wrapped up in your own experiences at the moment, the best thing that you can do for yourself is to say a prayer for someone else. Now, if you can't muster up a prayer because of the feelings that you're having at the moment, then just send somebody some light, send somebody some love, send somebody some joy. Whatever it is, do some kind of spiritual action just within your own mind and heart for another person, and then notice how it makes you feel. We can do this anytime we want. And it makes us, feel more grateful and appreciative, and it also opens our hearts to compassion. So the next question is this one. What one quote most often brings you the perspective and sense of appreciation you're seeking in the moment? If you're like me, quotes serve me as daily inspiration. Some kind of quote or another will, manage to work its way up into my mind or into my field of vision sometime during the day. Sometimes I have the same quote that kind of works on me for a long, long time. Sometimes it changes daily. But for today, what came to me, the quote that came to me was, "We're all leaves on the same tree." We are all leaves on the same tree. And I don't have to tell you that I love trees so very much. And in this context, the tree is the tree of life. And we are all leaves on this one tree of life. And I just think it's a beautiful image. But as we are all leaves on the same tree, what I also recognize is that what happens to one leaf happens to all of the leaves on the tree. And for my part, if I am dwelling in negativity, if I am being critical and judgmental and all of that stuff, then I am literally poisoning the tree with my negativity. Ouch. That is the last thing I want to be doing. And so this quote helps me to remember that what I think and what I feel matters, because that energy is going somewhere other than just within me. It is going out there. It is universal because it is an energy. And the thought of me polluting or poisoning the great and beautiful tree of life, just knowing that might be happening, is enough for me right now to do whatever I can to change my thoughts, to change my behaviors, so that I'm not responsible for doing that. So what quote for you helps you to appreciate the moment? Here's an easy question, or maybe it's not so easy. It was easy for me. The question is, who's an example of true humility? I was like, before I wrote the question, I already knew that the answer was the Dalai Lama. This man who leads millions of people, he's the spiritual leader. When you are in his presence, he is the most humble human being you can possibly imagine. And I have been blessed to be in the same room with him. It was a room with I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of people, but it didn't matter because the energy of humility that he projects is overwhelming. And wherever you were sitting in that auditorium, you could feel it. And I am so grateful and so appreciative that this man is on the planet here and now. It just brings me a great sense of well-being. Who's an example for you of humility? Humility is a wonderful quality, and maybe it's hard to come by. The next question is this: what stories have you heard that open your heart and inspire you to appreciate life more completely? Okay, stories. What kinds of stories have you heard that lift you, that allow you to appreciate the life that you're living right here and now, and that open up your heart? Well, I'll share a story that came to me. I quite honestly, if I could cite where I heard it, I would do that, but I don't know. It just arrived, and this is the story. It's about a woman by the name of Maria Ortiz. And Maria Ortiz is a ward of the state. She has terminal breast cancer. And she landed in an Oregon hospital after being abandoned by somebody. Somebody just kind of, like a baby, just dropped her off at that hospital and then left without ever indicating who they were, or for that matter, who Maria was. She ended up at end-of-life care at Port Haven Healthcare Center in Oregon. And they tried to find out who Maria was. They tried to find out her background. They searched her social security number. They just could not find any information about this woman. So no relatives, no friends, no one. So this group, this team at this care center became her family. And Maria was 55. And in all of her life, she had never once been to the ocean. Never. She'd never seen the ocean. And what she told these people was that if she had one wish, one life's wish, it would be to be able to go to the sea, go to the ocean. Well, this team thought, wow, this would be a wonderful opportunity for us to fulfill this woman's dreams. Imagine never seeing the ocean. We take that for granted, don't we? So they set about making it happen, but understand these are COVID times. So trying to find in Oregon a beach with access was virtually impossible. It wasn't that people were, being mean or anything. It's just that they were closed. They were locked down. And this was just the way it was. And so the team kept trying to call and find people who would assist them. And they finally connected with this one man who apparently decided to break the rules a little bit. And the reason he did was because he said, if this was my daughter, I would do anything in my power to fulfill her wish. And so he found a beach. It was called Sunset Beach, and it was right off of 101, and it had access, beach access. And so the team celebrated, right? Now they have a beach to take Maria to. Now they have to figure out how to get her there. So they had to find transportation, and they called around, and they finally found a local limousine service who volunteered to drive a limo with Maria and the team to Sunset Beach. And of course, saying that, this is a woman who is in end stages, yes. And so they had to make sure that She had all of her medications that she, she was secure and all of that. But they made that all happen. And Maria took her ride in the limo over to Sunset Beach. And they parked the limo, and she was able to get out a bit and smell the sea air, feel the air on her face, look out at the vast expanse of ocean and the beach. And they said she was quiet. She didn't speak at all. She just had this beautiful, beautiful smile on her face. Dream fulfilled, right? And the other piece to this story is that when Maria's time comes and, she leaves her body, the team has determined that they will pay for her cremation, and they will take her cremains over to Sunset Beach and sprinkle her ashes on that beach. The goodness and the kindness and the compassion of people. How can you hear the story and not feel compassion for Maria and not feel appreciation for these people who went so far out of their way to make one woman's dream a reality? It's a beautiful story. And here's the thing, stories like this, they're everywhere. They're happening all of the time. And the truth is, we're all on the internet. We're all spending time there. We're all tapping. What if when we're surfing the net, we just take a little bit of time every day to see if we can find one of these stories and a small example of compassion and love and appreciation. It's important that we do this. I call it strengthening our compassion muscle. We need to do things to strengthen it, to make sure that it doesn't become weak or doesn't become unusable. And that's up to us. Most of you know that I've been to India several times. And the first time I went to India, I remember that the instructors there talked about this concept, and the concept was called causeless joy and causeless love. Now, I thought, what in the world are they talking about? Well, basically, causeless love and causeless joy, by their definition, just means that you experience love and you experience joy without any kind of visual or auditory or mental image associated with it. It is just what it is for no reason within you. And they said, this is all you have to do to experience causeless love and causeless joy. All you have to do is experience as much love and as much joy as you possibly can each and every day. Just experience it, find it, allow it to be within you. Know that it's out there everywhere and bring it into your world, bring it into your life. And then one day, for no reason at all, you'll find that you feel this sense of love or a sense of joy well up from within you, just because it's there, just because it's in you, just because you and that love are one, and it's just being itself in you as you. Causeless. Well, compassion and joy and gratitude, they all work the same way. Appreciation is one of these things that we can cause to be causeless. All we have to do is find as many ways as we can each and every day to experience gratitude, understanding, appreciation, all the good qualities that we can think of, to find them and to experience them as often as possible. And then one day, for no particular reason, what we're going to find is those qualities, those feelings of appreciation and gratitude and compassion just welling up within us and rising forth from us, just because they're there in us as us, coming out to meet the world. Honestly, isn't this the purpose of our spiritual practices? Don't we do our practices so that we can become what it is that we focus on, that we can become what it is that we're meditating on, that we can literally become that which we want to be? We want to experience love, yes, we do. But more than that, we want to be love. We want to experience compassion and appreciation and gratitude. But more than that, we want to be that. Well, if we practice these things enough, one day we will find that it will just rise forth from us as causeless appreciation, causeless compassion, causeless understanding. You know, I'm not just saying this as an idea. This has happened to me. This actually works. I focused my energy on joy when I was in India. I just focused on joy because I wasn't feeling joyful. So I focused on joy so that I would be joyful. And I focused on it, and I focused on it, and I focused on it. And then one day, it didn't take that long. One day, I just closed my eyes and a smile happened. I did not call it forth. I wasn't thinking about anything in particular. It was just God being joy in me as me. Believe that this is possible. Believe that you can be that which you focus on, and imagine just having it come forth from you as you, that you can become that itself. We live in interesting times, and the world needs us, and they need us today. Why don't we begin now? Why don't we begin now, strengthening our own compassion, our own appreciation, our own gratitude and understanding? Join me, if you will, for just a moment, as we just allow our eyes to softly close. And notice that even with our eyes closed, we are aware of the light. And we are aware of our own bodies. We can feel the life that is within us. We can feel it. Whose life is that? Whose life are we feeling right now? There's only one life. And that life is God's life. And that life is my life. And that life is the life of each and every person. experiencing that life as them, as each of them. Each different, each special, each a reflection of the divine in them as them. And I know that this divine presence, which is so filled with goodness and so filled with all of the qualities that we can possibly imagine that we would love to become, that God, Spirit, the divine, is already that. And that is already within us as we choose to focus on it and allow it to become in us as us, living this life of God as us. And so I know that each of us find ways to experience these qualities of love and joy and peace and compassion, understanding, gratitude, that we find new ways to experience it. And each and every time we do, we are making and allowing that attribute, that quality to grow and strengthen within us. And soon, very soon, these qualities that are already us, already in us and as us, will become actively aware in our conscious minds. And I know that each of us feel this truth deep, deep, deep within the core of our beings. And we feel that deep sense of gratitude as this truth is on its way already. And giving thanks and celebrating this spiritual evolution that we are all experiencing right here and now. I give my thanks to that presence within us that is allowing it all to unfold easily and effortlessly. Knowing that this is the truth for us here and now, I just release it, I let it go, and I let it be. And so it is. Amen.
He was a little shy.
Thank you. Thank you, Soulshine, for that beautiful rendition of Nature Boy. And thanks to the invisible bass player on that piece, whoever that was. It was very good. Jimmy, thank you so much for reminding us of what we have to go back home to sometime. And Dr. Terry, thank you for that wonderful talk today. Yeah, appreciation. I think all of us got some appreciation in a whole new way. And excuse my cat for getting up and walking off. We have just a few announcements. Reminder that next week, Timber Hawkeye will be here. Timber is coming back as he always does every other month. And that is going to be next week. I'm sorry that we misstated last week. Reminder that also next month, we're going to have a couple of guest speakers. Jan Lynch and Delon Richenberg are both going to be speaking. And also remember that yes, isn't that wonderful? That we exist because of your contributions and your donations to us. We could not exist. This could not be here. We could not hope to go back to the pavilion. We could not have things at all without your gifts and your love offerings. So we want to thank you for continuing to give us the love offerings because of not having to pay the pavilion, and because of all of the love offerings we continue to get. We're in the black for the year, which is a wonderful place to be. A lot of places can't say that. But we still continue to need your ongoing support in order to be able to bring you this every Sunday, and to have available to you the soul support team and everything else. So if you'd like to make a contribution, you can simply send it to our office at 7350, El Camino, Suite 101. Or you can contact us and see about how you can make it an ongoing contribution, or you can simply go to our website and click on the PayPal button and make it a donation that way. However you wish to do it. We appreciate it so much, and we appreciate and love all of you. Reminder also that we still are taking prayer requests. You can simply email them to our email address, awakeningways@thegrid.net. Make sure that you put in the subject line that it's a prayer request. And a reminder to everyone that ethically, the practitioners and ministers cannot pray for someone who doesn't know they're being prayed for. So if you're asking us to pray for someone else, please ask their permission before you do that, because we simply can't do it. It's called spiritual malpractice to try and influence another person's life experience without their permission. We all have our own life path. We all have our own life experience, and we need to honor that, all of us, by not going behind their back and doing prayer work for them to change in some way, whether it's a healing, physical healing, or anything else, without their permission. So please get that permission before you send in a prayer request. And finally, next Saturday, November 21st, we're having a follow-up holiday book and gift sale at the office. That's going to be from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Everything is going to be 50% off, including the books and cards. And I had the opportunity to walk through the office this week and look at those things. And there's some great stuff in there that's just gone sitting there. It's still waiting for somebody to come and get it. So please stop into the office. Everyone's going to be masked. There are going to be a limited number of people allowed in at a time. So it will be social distancing, and we look forward to seeing you in the flesh, physical, even if we can't touch. So until next week, Let this be my blessing to you. May the divine love and appreciation for all things fill you. May you appreciate all that goes on around you, whether that is for your good or whether it appears not to be for your good. For the divine plan is unfolding perfectly. The divine right action is unfolding perfectly. And as we come to appreciate, it always unfolds for our good and our very. We are so blessed. And so it is. Namaste. See you next week.